Since the first 3 seasons of Henry Danger is streaming on Netflix at the moment, along with all the episodes on Paramount Plus, which I don't have at the moment, I've watched all episodes, and just by watching them, this show really doesn't have much improvements. And let me tell you that I actually thought that this episode, or in this case, a 2-part episode, might have potential to be one of the best specials in the entire series of Henry Danger. But just by watching these 2 episodes from back to back and how executed they are, it really goes to show that Dan Schneider has really gone downhill after Sam and Cat. And the 2-part episode I'm going to be reviewing for today is Indestructible Henry. In the first part of this episode, Captain Man and Kid Danger head inside of a clock store because there's a disruptor that is about to self-destruct in the store. The employees leave just in time before they get exploded, and just when Kid Danger found the disruptor and preparing to leave along with Captain Man, he forgot that he left his phone inside of the store. He tries to get back inside to retrieve his phone, but because of slow motion comedy, which this is ended up happening in the beginning of the episode, which isn't funny whatsoever, the disruptor exploded with Kid Danger inside, and Kid Danger managed to survive, except that his phone is completely destroyed. After Henry's friends help him out, he's back to normal, but on the other hand, Wei is still concerned because Henry isn't indestructible like he is. However, Swatch said that the desensitizer is in the basement of the man cave, which Wei was preventing anyone, including Henry, to find out. With no other option to hide it anymore, Wei shows the others the desensitizer in the storage room of the man cave. The reason onto why he refuses to test it with anyone is because it had side effects, and Wei had no side effects whatsoever. Because when his father found out that he had no side effects whatsoever and the fact that he's indestructible, he tried out the machine on one of his science buddies, and let's just say that his buddies really aren't the best buddies in the world when it comes to the luck that they have. Because the scientists end up getting side effects. There's a face on a man's belly button, the other man's hands are feet, which at this point I'm fully aware about the whole Dan Snyder situation after 3 years, and then we see an arm coming out of a man's ears, which, in my opinion, is actually a lot more disturbing and a lot more devastating to actually believe that this man's life just hasn't been the same afterwards. But Swaz has this theory that the reason onto why Wei got no side effects was because he was a child while riding on a skateboard. So, with Swaz being a genius, he might figure out a way to have Henry be indestructible with no side effects. So when Henry did the same notion of what Wei did during his childhood by riding the skateboard to the desensitizer, Swaz completely turned on the machine, and apparently Henry has no side effects and he's indestructible like Wei is. Unfortunately, in the morning, when he listened to a joke from the radio, he laughed, which caused him to breathe out fire. Yeah, a really bad side effect. In the second part of the special, he needs to make sure that no one sees that he has a side effect. Otherwise, they will find out that he is Kid Danger, who's been working at Juck and stuff, and he's not really working there, and he's mostly a superhero. I would discuss more about the plot, but the thing is, this plot had the ideals, but at the same time, it all falls flat. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. The first part of the special is the best part of this 44-minute special, but that's not saying much that the second half really didn't continue of how the first part is set up. It's mainly the fact that even though it is understandable that Henry is supposed to prevent himself from going anywhere with the side effect that he has, he really doesn't do much when it comes to just hiding it from his parents, while also just trying to handle the situation, otherwise things would just get a lot more complicated. The thing is, when Henry finally turned indestructible, they don't do much of it because of his side effect getting in the way, which makes the title of this special false advertising. Because, picture this way, when Henry gets hit from something in his house in front of his parents, and they're shocked that he's actually indestructible, that could lead to a really interesting direction. But on the other hand, they don't do that at all, which makes this entire plot involving Henry indestructible mostly pointless. Yes, the side effect is really serious, but on the other hand, this episode title could have been a lot more different, and even that would have been more accurate than the original title. Let me tell you that of how much that this show has done wrong when it comes to the characters and the morals it's trying to teach, which is the total opposite. They really don't know how to do something interesting when they do an episode involving Kid Danger. Well, he's indestructible, but they don't do it at all because of the side effect. And believe me, Henry is the main character of the show, and the fact that he's dealing with the side effect and not dealing with the same situations that Ray went through when it comes to him being indestructible, there was always a lot of missed opportunities. And let me tell you, after watching the first 3 seasons of the show, there was always a lot of missed opportunities, and so many episodes are considered terrible because of poorly executed writing. And the second part of this special doesn't do really much of justice while Henry just tries to prevent himself from keeping the side effect from others. This is like the iCarly special I Dated Bad Boy that is extended to 22 minutes even though it didn't need it to be. And even though that this episode does connect to the first part, it still doesn't really make anything interesting, because let me tell you, I really think that this episode, or special in general, could have potential to be a really interesting special, but just by watching it, they really didn't know what to do with Henry having this side effect or being indestructible whatsoever. And that's really a shame at the fact that Dan Schneider just instantly becoming less and less talented every time he writes an episode of this show and Game Shakers. Okay, I've gone long enough to not talk about the subplot involving Piper, so here it goes. Piper is making dinner, which his parents are completely paranoid because he's a terrible cook, but she's doing it so that she could be part of a reality show. And that's about it. They really don't do anything interesting. They don't give Piper any redeeming qualities or sympathy, and just completely keep her as a hateable character. I'm sorry, but if you seriously expect me to find sympathy inside of Piper and the fact that her parents are just trying to be as nice as possible, then no, because Piper is still a hateable character. She is worse than Megan, considering that all she does is just scream constantly, and whenever something doesn't go her way, she instantly just makes a stand for herself, all because she hates losing. Tell me. She made food during her parents' anniversary and during Henry's birthday party. And the fact that Henry's parents, including Henry himself, never call out Piper for how terrible she is, it really doesn't make anything better whatsoever. You seriously expect me to believe that Henry's parents aren't really good at parenting, even though that they gave birth to 2 children, Henry and Piper, and then they don't even understand how to parent them to be parents properly? It really makes this entire situation involving them not to eat Piper's dinner a lot more unbelievable if you ask me. Because if this would have happened to Henry's father or mother, who's a terrible cook, then maybe I could have understand because they're in charge. And it's way more difficult for me to see Piper demanding some respect and attention when she's a terrible cook, and she's just desperate to get what she wants, even though that she's breaking laws. Seriously. Her parents allowed her to keep her driver's license, and she is not even a teenager yet. And let me tell you, when Piper finds out that everyone has been eating her dinner, and she caused an entire mess because she's totally upset while running away, I really think that at this point, Henry Danger can't get anything right the more episodes I've watched. And believe me, if any of you guys are going to request me to review an episode that is considered good, you better try to actually find an episode that is actually considered good, because at this point, this is literally the lowest of what Dan Schneider has come up with. And Danger Force is literally no exception, because it's only there just to cash in more on Henry Danger. At this point, Nickelodeon can't even long will to stop even after they fired Dan Schneider 3 years ago. I would go on and on involving Piper's subplot and the fact that Jasper's friend is a stand-up comedian, but we will be here all day, and the comedy in the show isn't really one of the best. There are a few moments that I did laugh, but on the other hand, it's just not enough. So when Ray find out that Henry is indestructible because he accidentally used a cannon on Henry, they need to find a way to reverse Henry back to normal. But considering that the machine isn't really as powerful as it is back in the 1980s, they need Ray to use his indestructibilities to keep the machine running, which will allow Henry to use his side effect and powers. I would say that this is probably the biggest highlights of Henry Danger, but the thing is, for how poorly executed this special is, it's difficult to find any investment on seeing Henry gain back to normal, especially since he's no longer indestructible, making this entire special mostly pointless. I say mostly because there are a few scenes that I actually like from this special, which actually involves Ray and the scientists that his father tested on and the side effects. Yes, it is creepy, but on the other hand, it actually gives the special somewhat of a purpose. But it just isn't enough because of the execution that has been done poorly. I wouldn't say that this is the worst Henry Danger special since I've seen the first 3 seasons, but if I'm gonna have to guess, this can be better than the Thunderman special, which is a crossover with Henry Danger, along with most of the other specials like the musical. Yes, I did rate that special a little bit more higher when I first reviewed it last year, but considering of how tolerable this special is despite with its issues, I can sit through this than the musical. Not saying I'm against musicals, I'm just saying that for how much Nickelodeon is just trying to cash in on Henry Danger, it just really goes to show that a lot just isn't enough, or more than enough, whatever you prefer. Even if this is a superhero show where it's supposed to be corny and stuff, even that won't be an excuse for how poorly executed the writing is. And that really goes to show that Dan Schneider doesn't know how to write superheroes correctly, regardless if they're entertaining or not. I give this special a 5 out of 10.
Let's get this started again. Me and my whole